fellow Falcoholics, welcome to another episode of the Falcoholic Live. I am your host, Kevin Knight, at Falcoholic Kevin on Twitter, here to bring you the next episode in our free agency series. Today, we're finally pivoting towards the defense, which I know a lot of you have been asking about. Starting with the safety position, we're going to look at several free agents at this position. This is perhaps the most likely spot for the Falcons to invest a lot of money. For various reasons. So the fact that they've only got one safety two under contract right now in Jaylinn Hawkins and Ricardo Allen. Ricardo Allen's probably the most likely cap casualty of any player this offseason. So they're looking at going into the offseason with just one safety under contract in Jaylinn Hawkins. And in Dean Pease defense, you really need two quality safeties, two interchangeable guys at minimum that can come in and provide both deep coverage and box play, depending on how he wants to align, whether it's cover one, too deep, or some sort of robber scheme, all sorts of things like that. Dean Pease is very, very mobile with his safeties. He wants them to do a lot. So the position is very important for his defense. So we're likely to see the Falcons invest a lot in this position, whether it's the draft or free agency or both. So today we're going to take a look at four pretty big name safeties, guys that you've probably heard of. Probably you have an idea of at least who we're going to start with here. But these are some very important players, and I wouldn't be shocked, even though their price tags are likely to be fairly high, to see one of these guys end up in Atlanta on some sort of backloaded contract. So we're going to jump right into that. Before we do, I want to remind folks to check out the show on Wednesday nights if you don't already. And if you enjoy these episodes, please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that, folks. So without any more promotion, let's jump right into some free agent safety targets for the Falcons in 2021. So, 4 safety targets for Atlanta. The first one probably not going to surprise you. The connection is pretty obvious due to the Falcons' new general manager, Terry Fontenot, and that guy is Saints safety Marcus Williams. Was drafted by the Saints in that really famous class where they just got like 4 starters, and he's played very well for them ever since. So Marcus Williams makes a lot of sense for Atlanta. He's been obviously connected to the team because of Terry Fontenot, and we also know that New Orleans is probably unlikely to bring back many free agents because of their cap situation. They just don't have a lot of money to play around with. They're really going to be struggling to even keep guys that they have now under contract without some significant cuts and restructures. But Marcus Williams is a quality free safety starter. He does have some versatility to his game. He was mostly New Orleans deep safety, but he's a very sound tackler, and was able to fill, box role and a cover 2 role if necessary. 79.3 overall PFF rating last year. Very good. Very low missed tackle rate. And Marcus Williams is a ball hawk. He's a guy that's going to get you picks. He doesn't necessarily have like a Devontae Casey 7 pick season to his name. Few people do, but very reliable ball hawk who's going to get his hands on some turnovers for you from time to time. The only issue with Marcus Williams and a lot of the safeties that we're going to be talking about today is the price tag. Over the cap currently has Marcus Williams' value at $6 to $7 million a year, which is a lot of money for a team like the Falcons that doesn't really have much to play around with. So like any big deal this year, the Falcons are going to have to backload it pretty heavily. Not necessarily a big problem because Williams is just 25 years old going into 2021. And if they're going to give him a 3 to 4 year deal, it's unlikely that he's going anywhere over the course of that contract. He won't even be 30 by the time it's up. So, this is a player due to his age and his many years of quality play that you can pretty safely give a backloaded contract to and not be too worried about him falling off or something like that at some point in the future. And perhaps the Terry Fontenot connection is enough to convince Williams to choose Atlanta over some other possible suitors. The next guy we're going to talk about is one that a lot of fans have floated as a potential option. That is the Rams' John Johnson. John Johnson, again, very, very good safety, very versatile, played a lot of different roles for the Rams, very productive tackler, 105 tackles this year. Also had some tackles for loss, and just really good in coverage. He's not exactly the ball hawk that Marcus Williams is, but overall he's a more reliable and better player in coverage. I believe he only allowed like a 70 passer rating this year, and just a spectacular player by his PFF rating. 85.6 overall rating for PFF. Very good run defender and coverage player. John Johnson, obviously a perfect fit for a cover 2 role, for a versatile role, because he can play in the box and he can play very well deep. He can do just about anything you ask, so it makes a lot of sense for a Dean Pease defense to get someone like Williams. The only issue, just like Marcus Williams, is that his price tag is going to be expensive, and over the cap values John Johnson even more than Williams. We're looking at about $8.4 million a year according to their projections. It wouldn't shock me if Johnson's asking for 10 plus. I mean, it really depends on the market, and if the cap does go down, these numbers might also go down as a result, because teams don't have as much to play around with. But it's the same situation. Johnson's going to be just 26 in 2021. You can afford to give him a backloaded contract, 4-year deal, something like that. Because if the Falcons are serious about trying to win now, or just trying to get some pieces in place for this defense, it would make sense to add an impact starter at safety like John Johnson to really help out that kind of shaky corner back group that they're likely to have this year. AJ Terrell, obviously good, but we don't really know what else is going to be going on there when the dust settles. So a player like John Johnson could make a lot of sense for this team. The only issue is that potential price tag. And speaking of price tags, the next safety probably going to be even more expensive. But again, if the team is looking for versatility, if the team is looking for a guy that can do just about anything on the football field and do it at a very high level, Marcus Maye is the next guy we're going to talk about from the Jets. I know a lot of folks were thinking that maybe he was benefiting from playing next to Jamal Adams. Well, in 2020, he didn't have Jamal Adams next to him, and he continued to play great. Marcus Maye is one of those very versatile safeties. He can do just about anything. He's got the size to play in the box. He's got the range to play deep, and he's at his best really when you're moving him around. Really strong season in 2020. Definitely the best blitzer and pass rusher on this list. Had 2 sacks this year. Generally had a few sacks every season with the Jets. 82.8 overall PFF rating. Very good. Just a very well-rounded safety. Doesn't really have any weak spots in his game. Another guy that can offer the Falcons a lot of versatility and be really, really dangerous in those cover 2 looks where he can drop down into a robber role, where he can drop deep, and they don't really have any limitations with what he can do. That's one of the things that Dean Pease really values. So again, the issue is Marcus Maye may be the most expensive of all of these guys that we've talked about. OTC values him at $10.5 million a year. I don't know that he's going to get that. Again, it depends on the salary cap, but again, very quality safety. It also begs the question of, do the Jets let him walk because they have a new defensive-oriented head coach in Robert Saleh, and maybe they decide that they don't want to let him leave because he's a great player, and the Jets have like $70 million in cap space. So if that happens, then he's not coming to Atlanta, obviously, but if he's looking for a change of scenery, if the Falcons are looking to get spicy with, again, a backloaded deal, Marcus Maye is probably, one of the top guys that they could go after. So that is another name to keep in mind. The next guy is going to be kind of a different story. This is going to be more of a high upside, buy low candidate. That is the Colts' Malik Hooker. One of my favorite prospects from that draft class, unfortunately now has suffered 2 season-ending injuries. In between those injuries, he's been quite good. He's been an average to very good starter, depending on the year. But now has suffered another season-ending injury in 2020 with that torn Achilles, which, can be devastating for players. We do know that Hooker is capable of coming back from it. He came back from, I believe, an ACL tear in his rookie season to have 2 very good years. So the Achilles tear is going to drop his price drastically. I mean, he's probably looking for, $1 million, something like that. That's what OTC values him at. So we know Hooker can be a dynamic deep safety who can also make some plays against the run and is a ball hawk for sure. But we don't know how healthy he's going to be in 2021. So it's basically a gamble. You're going to give him a very minimal contract. I mean, it's pretty much similar to what the team would be doing if they brought back DeMonte KZ. You're going to bring him on a cheap contract. Best case scenario, he can be a dynamic deep safety for you, someone that can provide some really high-end coverage and ball hawking. Worst case, he's going to be a depth piece for you, a rotational guy that's hopefully healthy early in the season. And you're not really taking a big risk on him by giving him that sort of small contract. And if he ends up playing really well, it could be a comp pick in 2021 as well. So, the team doesn't have a lot of money. They may need to take some risks and bring in some guys like Hooker that are coming off injuries or coming off down years that they think they can turn around under Dean Pease. And that Hooker is one of my favorite names for that group. Just a couple other names to touch on quickly here would be Sherrod Niesman, who's a Falcons free agent. He's a solid guy at worst when called upon. If they need safety depth, I would not be opposed at all to them just giving Sherrod Niesman another 1-year deal, get him back in the building and let him fill in as needed as depth or even as a spot starter if required. And then another Saints player, strong safety DJ Swearinger, very physical, not necessarily in the prime of his career anymore, but Swearinger's is a solid guy. He can play in the box for you. Won't be expensive. So both of those guys could be, valuable contributors. They won't break the bank, certainly. They'll be solid options to fill out the depth on the roster. But at the end of the day, I think we'll probably see one of these free agents, maybe a different one, but one, starting level free agent joining this team along with probably a relatively early draft pick as well when the dust settles. So there you have it, folks. We've got 4 very interesting names for the Falcons, a couple of other ones tacked on the end there. I think any of those guys could be good fits for this team. I think probably the most likely would be someone like Marcus Williams, partially because of his lower price tag, partially because of that Terry Fontenot connection and the fact that he's likely to get out of New Orleans because of their cap situation. But I would like all these guys. I think all of these guys could be quality starters in Atlanta for the next few years, and they need some pieces to build around long term. Obviously, they can't afford to give out a lot of money this year, but if the cap is as low as projected, that means that the next year's cap and subsequent years are probably likely to go up a lot. So those sorts of backloaded contracts aren't going to be as problematic for you because the cap is likely to explode and go up by a lot. So you can afford to have some of these escalating cap hits in future years if the cap is going to increase to that degree. But guys, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Falcoholic Live. Next time, we're going to be talking about edge, which I know is the other position on defense that everyone's excited about. So look forward to that early next week, either Monday or Tuesday. As always, guys, please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. It helps the channel grow on the YouTubes. If you're interested in supporting the show on Patreon, helping us keep this thing ad-free, you can check us out at patreon.com/Falcoholic And also check out the live shows on Wednesday. We just got finished recording one a couple days ago with our special guest, Will McFadden, also talking about free agency. So if you're interested in getting some of that talk in as well, definitely go and check that out. And please do check out thefalcoholic.com for all that great written content, including a written version of this if you would like to show it to others that maybe don't do too much YouTube stuff. So guys, I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin on Twitter. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Falcoholic Live.